Welcome back to the Be Ruthless Show. I'm your host, Sam Ruth, and this is an extremely special episode. Joining me today is Adam Greenbaum, whose career has been deeply connected to veterinary medicine. He built a company that helped over 10,000 veterinary clinics grow and improve their online presence. He spent years learning how clinics work, what teams carry, and how hard they fight for the families they serve. And then it was his turn. When Baxter declined, he learned what so many pet parents learn in real time. You can be capable and experienced and still feel lost when you lose your pet when you love your pet like family. Love Baxter is Adam's commitment to building the world's most helpful resources for pet end of life, senior pet care, euthanasia support, aftercare, and grief. Not as a brand story, as a real I'm going through as a real response to a loss that changed Adam's family. Thank you so much for being here for this. Tell us about Baxter and you, of course, but I go straight to Baxter.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. I mean, he was so cool. I have a dog upstairs. She'll be 16 next month. Her name is Sophie. It actually like blows my mind that she's still here. She connects me to a life that was nothing like my current life. She is this connecting thing that takes me through, you say like you go to the next chapter. She's been through books with me. So when I got Sophie, I was just inspired by her, and I started a national dog rescue website called ibostonterrier.com. And we were the largest Boston Terrier website on earth, which is a weird thing, but it was real. And one day I get a message from this guy, and I lived in Las Vegas, and it's June. And he said, I got this Boston Terrier puppy, and he just won't shut the F up. Can you come over and check on him? So I get in the car with Sophie. We drive over. It's 100 and something degrees. I walk in the house of this stranger, and I say, okay, where's the dog? He said, he's out back. It is so hot outside. And there is a cardboard box directly in the sun that's full of pee and poop. And there's this little dog in there, and he did not look well. And I've been known in life to have a temper at times. And I remember, like looking at the guy and saying, yeah, I'm taking the dog. He said, what do you mean? I said, I'm not leaving without this dog. And, we kind of went back and forth, and he said, all right, give me $500. He's yours. I said, okay. Now I want to tell you all, I barely had $500 at that time in my life. Went to the bank, got $500, took him home. He smelled horrible. And I got him home, and it was a hard couple months. You think about this, he was purchased as a puppy and I've since met over the phone, talked to the breeder, and they're great breeders. Are in Tulsa, Oklahoma. You had this puppy who was taken from his life, put on a plane to Las Vegas, and then gets to this guy and is like tortured for 3-4 weeks. And then he gets to me and he's just whiplashed. So he had a rough first 3 to 6 months, and he was just my best friend on earth. And it's crazy because as time goes on, I fight so hard to keep his memory alive. But, you just have different relationships with different pets. No one is better, but he and I just felt like cosmically aligned. His life revolved around me. And, you see those quotes, and you see the social media graphics, and you see these things where it's like, they're your best friend for a small part of your life, but you're their best friend for their whole life. But he's truly my best friend. And yeah, when he died in 2024, it just crushed me because, he knew I saved him that day, and he spent every waking minute saying thank you just by being there. I had a tough upbringing, and then, I moved to Denver. I started a company. And obviously there's been a lot of success in there, but there's more hard days than good days as I was doing all those things, and, working till 2 a.m, waking up at 4 a.m. to work. And my wife's incredible. Sophie's incredible. Our cat Nala's incredible. But there was only one being on this earth that truly never left my side every single day, and it was him. So, losing him was hard. Losing him the way we lost him was hard. And, I'm just sitting here trying to honor his memory. And what's great is we reached 3 million people in the last couple months on Instagram alone for Love Baxter. And obviously we get to help people, but also we get to talk about him and we get to tell his story. And, here's this puppy that I don't think would have lived if he was with this guy much longer in Vegas. And yet, here he is 15 years later, even though he's not physically here, changing the world. And I just think that's really cool.
The coolest. Each Boston, each puppy, each kitty, has their own personality. I can only hear about him through you, but sounds so special. And here's one. Jump in to say hello.
I love it.
They know, like, he's saying thank you every day,
Yeah.
and wanting to not leave your side, like, that aggravates some people. That warms my heart, that, like, the bond, the way they live for us.
Yeah. I mean, what's tough is when we bought the house we live in now, we're in Newport Beach, California. I have this like first floor office, and it has this like fake, it's a real working garage door, but I'm not in a garage, and it goes out to a patio. And from day one, Baxter's bed, it was right in front of that door, and he would just lay and the sun would come in. And for years, I'd be, like I said, working till 2 a.m., waking up and working at 4 a.m. And I would look on the other side of my monitors. I always faced the door, and I would just check on him, and he was always there. And through the hardest days, I would just look at him and instantly feel okay. And then, now I face the wall. I still, and he's been gone 16 months. I can't bear to look that way because he's not there. So, it's just weird without him. I mean, he was that important to me. It's just odd not having him around all the time. It's hard.
So hard. This first move without Sassy, anyone who's, you talk about him being your soul connection, that's Dallas. But some of the things, when I lost Jim, people didn't understand Sassy grieving. And so, of course, I was shattered. But when I couldn't do things, it was because I couldn't leave her. She was still waiting for him to come home. She was sitting looking for him. But if I then also left, she was in full panic, pacing, going, I couldn't watch her distress. And so people who aren't dog people, who would say, like, Sam's just a dog, it would cut me so deeply, because we can see their pain. We were just talking before about what your pups are going through.
Yeah.
And she was telling me, she couldn't put it into words, but I was hurting so much for her pain. And animal pain is just so excruciating for me.
Well, and obviously, again, you and I have talked, and I'm sorry you've gone through so much. I mean, no one should. But I appreciate you at least highlighting the fact that our animals grieve, and it's something that comes up a lot. And like you said, if you're not a pet person, if you're not a dog or cat person, you don't get it, and that's fine. A lot of people aren't. But I would tell you, and by the way, there's a lot of pet owners that don't think of pets the way I do. I don't know how to describe it. I don't know how to articulate it to non-pet parents, but like when I look at Sophie, or when I looked at Baxter, Nala, or Cosmo, I truly don't see dogs and cats. And it's weird. Like, I don't look at Sophie and like, that's my dog. Here's your kibble. I look at her and I see family. I can't articulate what I see. And I just want everyone out there to know I don't see like a human child. Because someone's asked me that. It's not like I look at Sophie, I'm like, you're a little girl. But like, I don't look at a dog. She's so much more than that to me, which is weird to say, because if you ask me my honest opinion, the hierarchy of the best beings on earth, I think dogs are here. And, no offense to everyone, I don't even know if I'd put humans second, but I would definitely have dogs first. I'll say that. So, yeah, I mean, watching Sophie, it was weird because Baxter left. And in that day, that was another regret, is Sophie's had dementia. Oddly, he's been gone 16 months. I almost felt like her dementia was worse when he was dying than it is today, because I think we've been like hyper vigilant after losing Baxter, and she was having a tough day. So he was like being euthanized, and we look on the patio, and she was like laying on her back, rolling around in the sun, and it was like, okay. I wish we would have put her down, after we said goodbye. Baxter was put into a basket, and we kind of tucked him in. And, Nala, our cat, who is best friends with Baxter too, I think she knows. I don't think Sophie realized it. But then we had, he died on October 28th. We had a month and a half, 2 months. It was dark in this house. And, we didn't want to rush to get another pet. And we actually got into a groove, I would say, through the holidays, which was the least fun holidays ever. We got into a groove, me, Liz, Sophie, and Nala, our cat. And then, Sophie would go for walks, and her and Baxter used to run side by side and like kind of look at each other. And she would run, and she'd be looking to the side where he was, but he wasn't there. So, we eventually brought home Cosmo. We brought home a puppy. We rescued Baxter, rescued Nala, but we thought for Sophie, she's the queen. We got to bring in a dog that will know she's the queen. We had some friends bring over some dogs. It didn't go well. Even dogs she knew. So we said, okay, we got to bring in a puppy. And, Cosmo came home, and it's given Sophie new life. And, now she has someone that she can look at while she's running. None of this replaces Baxter, but, this is my super long answer to you saying, dogs can grieve, and it's hard.
And I love that you said it's given her new life, because at that point in time, so it's been 8 years, Sassy was 4 or 5. She was young, but she seemed like a senior dog. We both aged going through a massive loss, an unexpected traumatic loss. Getting Dallas, people thought I had 2 puppies. It brought her back to life. It gave her a playmate, a toy, and then we had another almost 10 years of her living her best life with a sister. So again, it didn't erase pain, it didn't take away loss, but it gave her life she needed. And without that, seriously, I don't know how much time it was aging her. Grief hurts. It affects your health. So
oh God, I mean, I'm like, the last 16 months, it's weird. I will tell you all, like, I don't consider myself an emotional person. I don't consider myself a sentimental person. And man, losing that dog, like losing him. And when I say that dog, I'm reminding you all, to me, dogs are here. So when I say losing that dog, it means something. But whew, it like changed the way my brain works. Like I don't feel like I'm the same person without him, which is crazy, right? Because you get a dog, and they're not going to be with you forever. But and obviously the way we lost him was pretty traumatic. So it was just, you just have this life together, you have this bond, and then it's just gone, and you blink your eyes and he's not here. And it was like, wait, what do you mean he's not here? And I didn't realize how much I maybe leaned on him every day until he wasn't here anymore. And it was like, wow, okay, so he was doing more for me than I realized. So yeah, it's tough without him.
So talk about love Baxter. It is so incredible what you've created in his memory, because it is a one-stop. You don't need to look anywhere else. When you are grieving, when you have lost your everything, your best friend, there's a lot you want to do. So, here I am wearing, oh my God, I can't believe it's underneath, my necklace with ashes with Jim and Sassy mixed together. You want these things. And sometimes you feel like you have to look in 10 places, right?
Yep. Yeah. And you know what, by the way, there could be 10 great places. When Baxter died, so I'm an entrepreneur. I had a software company. We have over 10,000 clinics that use our software. I've been the, keynote speaker at many vet conferences. I've worked with, I pretty much feel like I know almost every veterinarian on earth. We spent $35,000 on Baxter in the final, 4 or 5 months of his life. We went to the ends of the earth, and we lost him. The communication was really bad. We were not being prepared for what was coming. We thought for 6 months we were healing him, but that was never the case. He was never healing. We had good days, we had bad days. It's cancer. Actually, never mind, it's not. Actually, now we think it's cancer. Actually, never mind, it's not. It was the worst months of my life. I'm running a company with our executive team. I mean, it was hard. And then he's just gone. I won't rehash it, but we had his final 24 hours were great. The 72 hours before that were the worst 72 hours of my life. I don't, something happened to my wife, it would be worse. I would say outside of that, I'm not going to have a worse 72 hours. I'm going to knock on wood. Universe, don't mess with me. And then I was left with, wait, what just happened? So I did what I do. I built a company. I know SEO better than most people on this planet. I couldn't find anything. I'm searching the internet, not just for normal stuff. I'm searching for wild stuff I don't believe in. And if you looked at my search history over the next 96 hours after he died, it was nuts. I mean, I was just clearly having like a manic week of not understanding anything. And, I had people sending gifts and really thoughtful. I mean, anyone that sent anything, cards, gifts, it was incredible. It wasn't stuff that was like, wow, this lives up to the level of Baxter. So, I started thinking about it, like, why am I not finding anything? Or if I'd find something, I'd find one piece to the puzzle here, one piece to the puzzle here. Like you said, there could be so many great websites, and there's a lot of great people on websites. We have a universe, and this universe has endless space and stars and planets, but it didn't have a sun. It wasn't revolving around anything. Love Baxter's the sun. Love Baxter is not here to compete with you or you or you or you. It's here to shine a light on you. Now, I haven't been welcomed as much as I would hope in the pet end of life space. It's a lot like veterinary medicine and a lot like other industries. There's a lot of resource guarding, to which I tell people, I'm here to promote you. We have a directory of professionals. I don't offer these services. I want them to find you. I don't make products. We have a memorial store. I went out to every company. I sought out. I asked hard questions about their customer service, how they source it, where they get stuff. I wanted the best of the best. So I put a lot of time and effort. I met with thousands of veterinarians and pet parents and asked, a lot of questions. So I built this to be the connective tissue of the world. Like you said, I don't want to have to go to 10 places. And, and not only is it about pet loss, we have so much content around senior pets, chronically ill pets, because I think we are not being prepared as pet parents for this whatsoever. And, I love veterinary medicine. I've dedicated my life to it, but also they are not taught how to prepare us for the end. 75% of vets who graduate veterinary school have never done a euthanasia. So, their job is to diagnose and fix. And at the end, most people have had the same thing. You go to the vet, they say, I think it's time. And you say, okay. And I want to arm pet parents with the knowledge of, you don't have to do it at the vet that day. You can go home, and there's in-home veterinary, euthanasia that you can find on Love Baxter. You can talk to social workers and pet death doulas who can help you. There's so many different things you can do. And I just want to arm people with the knowledge beforehand and to help prepare them, the questions they should be asking the vets. I want people to understand the cost. So there's just a lot of stuff. And, and again, behind all of it is this dog, this Baxter, I get to say his name every day. I mean, I'm going to ask you a question, even though it's your show. I had some trauma in my childhood. My brain, I think all of our brains do a great job of taking hard memories and hard things and locking them away, so it's hard to access. I find myself at times struggling to remember Baxter unless I stop what I'm doing for a second and say, okay, I need to focus. And then I look at pictures, I'll look at videos, but my brain does a great job of protecting me and saying no, that was really hard for you. We're going to tuck this away, even the good times. So, building this helps keep his memory alive. But why does our brain do that? I mean, does that happen to you?
with traumatic, see, not with the losses, with Jim, with Sassy, with Harley, not with people, places, pets I've lost, with traumatic childhood events. Yes, I have to
Interesting.
ask people, when did this happen? To protect us,
Yeah.
to get us through, to survive.
Yeah. So, you know, this gets to keep his memory alive. I mean, every day I get to talk about him. Every day I get to share photos of him. And I just think it's really cool. And I've met so many people who've built things in honor of their pets, and I think it's great. And I tell everyone it's not a competition. I just, you know, this is what I'm good at building. I'm good at building things like this. And if someone could get help, someone messaged me the other day on LinkedIn and said, I just want to thank you for this. I lost my pet in a traumatic way, and I found an article on Love Baxter about PTSD and pet loss, and she said, God, it really helped me. And she got help. She got to learn about Baxter. I mean, he's in our logo. He's the intro for our YouTube videos. I mean, he is all over this thing. And we just get to keep his memory alive. And that's really cool to me that, 3 million people in the last, however, since January 1st have gotten to, view Love Baxter content. I hope a good chunk of them have said, who is Baxter? I just love Baxter. Who is he? So, it's called Love Baxter because it's a love letter to the world from him. This is his story.
You also have just help finding a vet if it's not end of life care. So Sassy's situation, moving. I had a really difficult time finding a vet here, and losing her probably would have happened regardless. But I was staying in touch with my vet in Colorado because I wasn't trusting what was going on here. So had I had this resource, there would have been you or people to say, I don't trust what I'm hearing, because there came a time where my vet was out of town. And so then I'm left with this place that I don't trust.
Yeah.
And now what do I do?
What's funny about that? I mean, that's why I started my first company. It was called Whisker Cloud. Today it's called Pet Desk. If you're out there and your pet, there's a good chance your vet uses our software. I moved to Denver. I had just me, Sophie, and Baxter. And it was our first night there. It was May 14th, 2014, I think. And it's snowing really hard. None of our stuff got delivered, even though it was scheduled to be delivered that day. So I get there in the U-Haul from Las Vegas. I am laying on the ground. I don't have a bed. I don't have anything. I'm laying on the ground with my dogs. I don't have Wi-Fi set up yet. And I'm laying on the ground in the living room, and they're just curled up next to me. And I'm sitting there like looking at the ceiling, looking at my iPhone, looking for a veterinary clinic. And, this is 2014. All the websites were horrible, and they didn't like sell me on, and I'm like, uh-oh, here I am downtown Denver looking for someone to take care of them. I mean, that was the most important thing for me, by the way, not where's my stuff. It was, okay, I'm here. We need to find a good vet. And it was so bad, and then, within 2 years, I launched Whisker Cloud, and we helped 10,000 veterinary clinics. And my big thing was always like, you had this life where you dreamed of being a vet, and then you go to college and you go to veterinary school, and, then you get a job, and you don't tell your story very well. I don't want you to tell me we treat your pets like family. You don't. When you're here, you're family. No, we're not. I don't like that. I want you to say, this is what we do. This is how we do it. And this is what makes us great. And this is our promise to you. And, that's what we help a lot of vets do. And it was really cool. So yeah, I'm with you. It's, and that's why our directory, there's, 350 live people right now. There's another 170 that aren't live because I personally vet them. And when I say vet them, they say they're certified in something. I reach out to the certification company and say, is this true? They say we do this. They say we're the best. I go look at their reviews. If their reviews aren't a certain level, I don't have them on Love Baxter. I'm not trying to be judge, jury, and executioner, but if you have 50 reviews and you still have 3 stars, I'm not going to recommend you. So, I want people, whether they have a senior pet, chronically ill pet, or, we're getting near the end of a life, you have a geriatric pet. I want them to have good people who really care. Not the people say, we treat your pets like family. Like, no. That's what they all say. And I can tell you, We love our vets. We do. We always have. I'm not family. And that's okay. I don't need to be family. All I ask of you is to provide amazing care and communicate well. That's it. And our, we go to Modern Animal now for our pets, and they communicate really well and they take good care of us. We're not family, and we don't want to be family. Now where Baxter was going is one of the most beautiful, incredible, highly skilled medical facilities I've ever been in. And I've been in a lot of vet clinics. Medically, they crushed it for him and for us. Now, it was tens of thousands of dollars. I would hope they would. Communication wise, they stabbed me in the heart 10 million times over and over and over. And it's hard, and it's hard to come back from that. And that's the message I'm also trying to say is we have this ecosystem of in-home euthanasia, pet cremation facilities, social workers, grief counselors, and the same thing I did for veterinary medicine I want to do for these people too. Like, you can't just say, like, I know what loss is like, I'm here for you. No, you need to tell me why you, singularly you, are the person that should help me through the hardest time in my life. You're an in-home euthanasia vet. Why should I trust you, a stranger, to come into my home and be part of the worst day of my life versus just going to the vet clinic that I know well? And by the way, there's great reasons, but if you can't articulate it to me, then we have a problem. So yeah, it's a lot.
We were talking and you said something that there's a connection between spouses who have people who have lost a spouse and pet loss.
Yeah. You and I met and you told me about Jim, and I said, okay, you're freaking me out. I've met so many people who are in the pet loss space, grief counselors, social workers, doulas, people who've opened cremation facilities, who've lost a spouse and a pet. And I asked you, like, there must be a correlation here, which is a weird question to ask. It was the first time I think you and I were talking. Wasn't I on the way to take Sophie to get? Yeah, I was on the way to take my almost 16-year-old dog to get an eye procedure. She's still wearing her cone. So you and I talked a couple weeks ago, and the eye's looking great. She seems really happy, but that was a scary day. You don't want to any sedative in a 16-year-old dog and for them to have to like drill on her eye. But yeah, I asked you that question, and it was a weird question to ask, but I mean, and I'm sure your listeners have heard it, but I mean, you articulated it really well. But that's been probably, there's been a lot of patterns I've seen. I'm new to this space. I'm not in the, grief or death space. But that's a pattern I've seen a lot. And for many people, it was just like your story, that it was when you lose a spouse. For so many of us, that pet is there through the hardest time of our life. And you know what's crazy is, like, and we say our pets give us unconditional love. Like, I love my wife more than anything in this world. I would do anything for her. I would take every bullet on earth for her. I would never compare my relationship with Liz and Baxter, because my relationship with Baxter was just different. My wife and I are madly in love. We've had fights. We've both said things that we wish we could take back. We've both done things we wish we could take back. Nothing bad enough to blow up a marriage, but you get stressed, you have a bad day, you say something shitty. I don't know. But you don't have that with Baxter. There was never I can't believe he said that. And, you get over it, but then you kind of remember it. But, with our pets, Baxter never cared, if I was having a bad day. He was just like, God, man, I just want to be next to you. That's it. He couldn't sleep if he wasn't touching me. So, I know I'm ranting, but yeah, I asked you that question. Do we have a better answer? Or is it?
I'm fascinated by it, and I'm continuing to dig into it. You saying I have two nieces. The youngest is 13, and I'm trying. I mean, she could have been 8, 9 when she asked my dad. So my parents have had Bostons. They're on their 4th.
I love it.
My brother is 23. So for 32 years, they've had Bostons.
Wow.
Since he was 13. And my dad, it was supposed to be a 13th birthday present for my brother. My dad immediately stole and became, his dog, their inseparable. It like literally. So my niece Lila said, Papa, like, do you love them more than us, more than Nana, more than Daddy and Aunt Sam? Like at one, and my dad said, yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. 100% without question. They are here far above. Like everyone else is here. They don't talk back. They don't give me grief.
Yeah.
They don't stress me out.
It's weird. And I don't want to say weird. It's interesting how many people, like I said, most days we're getting 500 to 1,000, a lot of days 1,000 plus comments, messages, DMs to love Baxter. It's been interesting how many people say I have human kids, and this loss of my pet, I don't think it will be worse to lose my human kids. Someone DM'd us yesterday and was like, my human kids drive me crazy. This dog never drove me crazy. So it's so funny hearing you say that, because it's like I was talking to my father-in-law about this. Like maybe 6 months after Baxter died. And I said, man, I love you. You're like a dad to me, because I didn't have a dad in my life. I said, but outside of your daughter, losing Baxter, losing Sophie, nothing will ever be worse to me. This is the worst thing that will ever happen to me. And I truly believe that. And I'm knocking on wood. I never like to invite the universe to say, oh yeah, check this out. But yeah, it's crazy how many people feel that way about their pets. But you know what? I think too, it's like, for me, I didn't have parents in my life, but I would say, if you're out there and you're in your 30s, 40s, 50s, your pet sleeps next to you every night and spends every waking minute with you. You might see your parents twice a year for 3-4 days. You might see, siblings once a year, every other year. So for a lot of us, these pets are so interwoven into our lives. I think the thing that I lost with Baxter, he and I would get up at like 6 a.m. every day, and we go for like a 2-3 mile walk, just me and him every single day. And I remember, like, the day after he was gone, I got up and like I couldn't go for the walk without him. And I didn't go for a walk. And I remember it was like a month before I went and did a morning walk. And I was running a company and I had an employee in London, and we typically did early calls. And I said, I'm going to go for a walk today while we talk. And I had Zoom on my phone and I was talking to her, and like halfway through, she's like, how are you doing? I was like, I am dead inside right now. This walk is so hard without him, because I'm on the same walk me and him used to do it. And it's like you're walking and you're almost seeing like a hologram of him, like every memory of every day, that same walk, across Newport Boulevard, we go through this neighborhood, we go around this big park. There's, we walk up the stairs by the basketball hoop, and it's like my brain had clipped together 6 years of days. And I was just like watching him walk with me. And it was brutal. It was hard. But now, now it's not hard. And, I've got Cosmo, our puppy, that I take. And, Sophie's, she has her own walks. But yeah, it's the routines we have with them that are just, when they're not here. I don't have that routine with my in-laws. You don't have that routine with parents and siblings and cousins and best friends. They don't wake up next to you every day. That'd be weird. So yeah, it's just really hard.
Do you talk to him?
Oh yeah. Again, we talk every single day. I'm telling you all, if you all knew me before, I'm not a religious person. If you ask me, do you believe in heaven and hell? Today, the answer is no. If you asked me if there's life after death the day before he died, the answer would have been no. If you ask me today, I can feel him so strongly. I don't know how to describe it. I don't know how to articulate it, but I have to believe he's here. And I mean, where do you stand on that?
Same. I after losing Jim, it completely changed meaning for me. And I can always feel them, always connect. I also believe, not so much with Denver, he's too young and I haven't taught him completely yet, but I like Dallas, I will sometimes say, are you playing with Sassy right now? Or are you looking at Sassy? Is she here? So yes, like always here.
Yeah, it's you know, 3 weeks after Baxter died, my best friend and his wife come out every year for Thanksgiving. So 2 weeks after Baxter died, I had to go speak at London Vet Show, and that was a nightmare. And that was not great. And we come back, my best friend and his wife come out, and it's early in the morning. My buddy Jesse and I go for a walk, and we're 30-45 minutes into the walk, and he goes, "How you doing?" And we'd been talking, and I was like, "What do you mean? We've been sitting here talking." He's like, "But how are you really doing?" I said, "Man, there's one thing that's not sitting right with me." I said, "I thought I'd hear from him." And he looked at me like I'm crazy. He was like, "You are saying that?" And I was like, "Dude, I thought I would just a sign." I told him, like, I've been Googling stuff, and now we have a ton of this stuff on lovebaxter.com. I said, I just wanted some sort of sign where he would say, "Hey, I'm okay." I'm not kidding you all. Within 30 seconds, we are crossing the street by my house in this area called Lido Marina Village. And we walk, and we look down, and there's a big cardboard box, and it is from the Baxter Corporation, and it says Baxter in big letters on it. I'm the biggest germaphobe on earth. I carry like spray disinfectant for my hands all times, and I picked up this wet Baxter box and I carried it home, and I brought it upstairs, and we showed the wives, and we told them the story. And it was that was like that changed my brain, which is crazy, right? In an instant, my brain went from I don't believe any of this to okay. That was the timing of it within 30 seconds. I don't think like Baxter's in heaven and he's like, "Hey God, we gotta send my guy a box. I need him to know." It was just, it was crazy. And then, I'm big on numbers. So Baxter died on October 28th, 10/28/24. He was born on April 2nd, 2012. So I see 10/28. I see 28 everywhere. Uh, at the weirdest times. The other night, I had to log into something, and it's a rough day, and I'm trying to log into something. It says you must open your Google Authenticator code. Google Authenticator code is 6 digits. Think of all the combinations it could be. I'm tired. I'm doing this thing. I log in, and the freaking code is 002800. It's like, you know, sure, it could have been. It maybe has nothing to do with him, but it's just this was like a week ago. But I just get these signs all the time. And like I said, I feel him, and I don't know how to describe that. And I literally have like reached out to physicists and people who've dedicated their life to the afterlife, and I've had them explain it to me that we're all living here, and there's a plane that's 1 degree off from ours where the souls and energy of the people we've lost are, and they stay with us, and they're like next to us at all times, and they're sticking. I said, well, isn't that creepy, like they're watching us? And they said, no, this is just they're there with you. To them, they're in the house with you, they're comforted, and everything's normal. It made sense to me. I still struggle with this, and I we have a group of amazing animal communicators and mediums, um on our directory, and I've talked to a lot of them. I've talked to so many people who have been like, they said things you could never know, you know. And I met with one, and she was talking about Baxter, and she said a couple things. I'm like, okay, well, I'm a big mouth online. Maybe she looked it up, and I posted about that at some point. But so my brain doesn't know how to connect those dots. But I definitely know he's here, and I don't know what that means. I don't know how to make it make sense in my head other than just I feel him. I don't know. Do you feel that as well?
When I didn't believe it,
Yeah.
when I needed to make sense of it, I met with an animal communicator.
Okay, cool.
I needed to get out of Denver. I love Denver with Jim, but Denver without Jim was not
Yeah, I
working
can't
for me.
imagine. Yeah.
But I needed to know from Sassy that it was okay to sell our house. Like that was not going to be another trauma for her.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, people talk about these animal communicators. How am I going to know it's not like a fortune cookie?
Yeah.
So I don't give anything. I didn't let them see I gave like probably didn't even give a real email.
Yeah.
She says to me, Sassy says Dallas needs you to trim her nails and she doesn't like her new leash. That was the first sentence she said. And I said, oh my Lord, okay. I'm going to be open-minded to this, the rest of this meeting. That was the first thing she said. And I'm thinking, she's not talking about me, Jim.
Yeah.
Like she couldn't have looked that up.
Yeah. That's, we have our puppy Cosmo, and I was meeting with Terry J. She's amazing, and she's on our directory, and she's been on some TV shows. And she said, Cosmo loves when you nibble his cheeks. And I pick up, he's our little Boston Terrier puppy, and I pick him up and I always like nibble his cheeks. And I was like, how did you just say that? I'm like, is there a video of me online doing that to Sophie and Baxter? Like, could you have picked that up? It was just so, it caught me so off guard. And I've literally thought about it every day since this was like a month ago, because I'm always like, wait, how did she know that? Because, if you ask me, do I believe in like human psychics? Okay, I'm gonna walk in. What's my name? Like you said, like you want to almost discredit them, but yeah, I've had too many people work with mediums and communicators and walk away, with what you said and be like, wow, okay. So I mean, I believe in it. There's a lot of stuff I can't explain. Yeah, it's crazy.
And it's comforting. I knew I needed to move. If somebody listening needs to say, I am validated, like I just needed something to make myself feel better about selling my house and moving. I did. That was the most difficult thing. That selling our house and moving was another very difficult part of my process. So having permission from Sassy to do it, sure, yes, I could be completely telling myself a little story, but the things that this person knew, there are things that there's just no other way that I can't explain. And so, yeah, I started to, along the way, look for things to believe instead of doubt. And so there's a book called Signs
Yeah.
that, you can just ask for a sign like you
Yeah.
did. I need a sign, and boom.
Yeah.
Does it usually happen that quickly? No, but we can be as specific as we want.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to ask you a question. So what if you were working with that communicator and they said, Sassy said you can't sell the house, and Sassy is begging you not to sell the house? Then what?
I wouldn't, if I really truly probably would have gone back to my therapist. Like, what do I do? How do I survive here?
Yeah. I mean, it's an interesting thought. I mean, and obviously I'm glad it worked out for you, but, and yeah, like I said, I don't not believe in it. My brain, I'm a very literal person. I'm a very science and math person. I think those are the things I believe in. But what I don't want to do is I don't want to be like a fake spiritual person just because Baxter died and it fits the new narrative. So I don't want to be like, well, now I believe in it because he died. I want to believe in it because I believe in it. And this is a really morbid thing to say, but I think about it a lot. Sophie's my baby. Baxter was my best friend. He never acted like he was my kid. He was my best friend. He really took care of me. What do you need? I got you. Sophie's the opposite. She's upstairs right now and her going, she is my baby. And she knows she's my baby. And she has to be carried like a baby. And when she needs food, she punches the couch where I'm sitting. She is my baby. I'm curious what I'll go through when she's gone. Will she and I communicate? Because she and I communicate differently than me and Baxter. Hers is very much like, I need you, Dad. Come get me. And we go handle it. Baxi was like, talk to me, man. How's your day going? It's just different. Like I said, it really felt like a best friend and like a kid. So, and she's almost 16. She's a Boston Terrier. They don't live this long, and she's doing great. We have, 2 sets of stairs in the house, and she runs up and down. She goes to the beach every day. She plays with the puppy. She also has Cushing's, hypothyroidism. She has an intestinal thing. She's lost her hearing. She's doing great. we were mentally prepared for her loss. I think we've been prepared for 3 years. I actually think we're so prepared that when she's gone, it's going to really mess us up. But I'm curious to see, like, once I go through that cycle again, where will all of this land? Will I have signs from Sophie? Will I have, but yeah, that's my big thing is I don't want to be a hypocrite and just believe in this stuff and think about this stuff just because it fits this Love Baxter story. It fits this Baxter story. I want to believe it because I believe it. And, but I guess that's how everything goes, right? You have no reason to believe something, and then you get new information. You're like, well, actually, like the odds of that box being there when we walked by with his name on it 30 seconds after I said that, it's too weird.
Yeah. And now search for things. I'm just curious now. I just am curious and look for things to pique my interest. And more often than not, they're just more signs. And I keep given more to look for.
Yeah. And how great is that forever, I think about it 50 years from now, I'll be walking down the street and I'll see something. What's really interesting about this, I don't talk about a lot. Like the week Baxter died, we're an hour and a half from San Diego, and I went to a friend's birthday in San Diego, and I had a bad gut feeling leaving Bax. He was with my wife, and I'm driving, and the same Baxter Corporation, a truck drove by me, and it had the Baxter Corporation. And I remember thinking, oh my God, I got to go home. And I'm walking into the restaurant, and there's a person, it's down in San Diego by the water, and a person walks by me with a brown and white Boston Terrier. And I was like, oh my God, like the universe is throwing signs at me. And I ended up leaving early and going home and being with him. But yeah, he and I were connected cosmically. And, I don't know what I believe for the end of this life. I really don't. The last words I said to him, as he took his last breath in my arms were, I will find you. Not something I plan to say, not something that I would say ever. I mean, my wife was next to me. She probably thought, what did he just say? Because, like I said, you asked me what happens when someone dies. I always said the same thing, fade to black. That's it. And now you couldn't convince me of that, which is, my wife's aunt died late last year, and we've had people in our life die, and I used to think of them just like, yeah, they're gone. And now I think, what's Mary doing? Where is Mary? What is Mary seeing? Mary's husband, my wife's uncle, was just out here with us. Was Mary with us because she's with him? 16 months ago, I wouldn't have ever thought that. So yeah, it's just interesting.
Lovebaxter.com. Is that the best place for people to find you, connect with you?
Yeah. Check out lovebaxter.com. If you have feedback, we have contact forms on the site. You can find me on LinkedIn, just Adam Greenbaum. And, we've got a big social media presence on Instagram. We're at Love Baxter Co. And yeah, I mean, we're on LinkedIn and Facebook and YouTube, and, we have all those things. But, if you have people with pets in your life, tell them about it. This doesn't have to be sad thing. We have a lot of stuff for senior pets. And if you're watching this with pets, I think that's been the most shocking thing is, when you have an 8-year-old Boston Terrier, it's a senior. When you have a 6-year-old German Shepherd, that's a senior. People don't realize that, our close friends have a Husky, just turned either 8 or 9. And I said, oh, so you have a senior? They said, she's not a senior. No, she's a senior. So, I'm working on vet med. I have a ton of advisors who are veterinarians who help us with the content, who make sure everything we do is correct on Love Baxter. And, and I talk to them about a lot of this stuff. We're there to make the end a good end. Every day I get 1,000 messages from people who are like, this was the most traumatic day of my life. And I will tell you all that we had these 3-4 days. On a Wednesday, I was looked in the eyes and our vet said, his blood work's perfect. We beat this. Perfect. We beat this. So what did we do? We went home and celebrated. We danced with him in the house, and he collapsed the next day. And then he was hospitalized overnight. And then he was given a cancer drug to like the knockout punch to make him better. And then he was peeing blood, and then he couldn't walk. And then we had 48 hours of hell. And then we got him a pain shot, and we had 24 beautiful hours. We took him to his favorite beach. We took him to his favorite places, and we just said goodbye and didn't leave his side for 24 hours. He slept in bed with us one last time. He did 3 things at the end of his life. It was out of a movie. He told me, "I love you. I'm going to miss you." And these 3 things, if you would have told me 2 years ago he was going to do these things on his final 24 hours, I wouldn't have believed it. And he did all 3. But we were able to stop time. A lot of people don't get to do that. So, we have a good plan for Sophie in place, and we know what our line in the sand is. And I would tell you all, you're not a bad pet parent. You are not inviting death to your door by preparing your 4 or 5 or 6-year-old dog for the end of their life. It is not a bad thing to go to lovebaxter.com and just start thinking about things. What are the things I want to have set up? I have a close friend whose dog's been really sick and is getting old. She said to me, "What if I'm traveling and he dies at home?" I said, "Well, go on our site, find a aftercare cremation facility and veterinary hospitals. A lot of them offer 24/7 transportation. They can at least come get him and make sure everything's okay and give you a real goodbye, so you can come home and you're just not coming home to a body." So these are morbid things to talk about, but they're the things we should do. So yeah, I would tell you, just be prepared, and then be prepared for the hardest times, and hopefully they won't be as hard as they might have been. For us, it was pretty hard.
And knowing these things, right? Dallas is 8. I said that same thing to you. I said, she's a senior.
Yeah.
I have to treat her like a senior. But
Yeah.
doing that, right? Harley was 15.
Yeah.
Jesse was 13, right? This will keep her as happy and healthy for as long as possible. If I don't give her senior food, that's not going to keep her as healthy as it should.
I agree. Yeah, I mean, think about us. As we age, we have to change our medications, we have to change our food, we have to change our routines. Yet so many of us are like, "Yep, same kibble, same medication." And again, I'm asking veterinarians to be better, to sit down with you when you come in and your dog's 7 or 8 and say, "Guess what? You have a senior. Everything is fine today, but I'm going to walk you through some things. You know how we see you once a year? We're going to start seeing you twice a year. You know how blood work's $280? Now it's $500. You know how the food you buy is $80? The prescription stuff's $120 a bag. All the prices are going to go up. If your dog gets cancer or something else, this is the cost." And on their final day, when we say goodbye, if you want their ashes back and you want to do it right, it will be $500 to $700. So I'm walking you through this now, not because I'm trying to scare you, not because I want to stress you out, but because I care. Because I can't tell you, every day we get so many people who are like, "My dog's dead. I'm $5,000 in debt, and no one warned me this was going to happen." And I don't put that blame on the vets. We're all pet parents. We need to do the research. You buy a car, you research it. You buy a washer dryer, you research it. We research things. We look at reviews. You get a dog, whether it's a Boston Terrier, whatever it's doing. I don't want someone to get a Great Dane and then they're 6-year-old and die, and the vet says, "Yeah, they live 6 years," and you're like, "Wait, what?" So if you're getting a dog, even if you're rescuing a dog, pull out your phone, do some quick research. What is their what is their projected lifespan? What are common health issues for these dogs? I mean, that's why we've only had Boston Terriers, and we'll probably only have Boston Terriers, because we know Boston Terriers so well. There's not a lot of surprises. We know the stomach issues. We know the eye things. Luckily, we had really good luck with eye things, and it took Sophie almost 16 years to have her first eye thing. But yeah, so, preparing for these things is not a bad thing to do. You should do it the same way, that people have life insurance and wills and things like that.
Anything we haven't covered?
I think we've covered everything. And I'm so glad Kelly had already introduced me to you on LinkedIn, and I'm so glad we got to meet and talk. And I don't think this is the end of me and you working together on stuff. And I just love what you're doing with Grief Hab, and I appreciate you bringing pets into the fold too, because this is a big important part of this. 70% of the households in this country have a pet. That's pretty big.
Thank you for everything you do. Love Baxter is amazing. I do feel like I know him. Sophie and Cosmo sending all of the healing vibes. 2 pups in cones. Cannot imagine. Lovebaxter.com, everyone. Reach out to Adam. Just check it out. If you don't have a pet, someone you know does. Until next time, everyone, always be ruthless.